I mean, I knew somebody who said to me, actually more than one person who said to me, a woman said, I was what they called a tomboy. If I was alive now and acted the way I did then, that's what they would have done to me.
Well, nobody's doing this to her.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
literally, nobody is doing this to her.
How old?
She is, or he is, either 8 or I think 9.
Okay, then somebody is doing something, because 8 or 9-year-olds can't.
No, you know what they're doing?
Can't do anything on their own.
No, they're buying them boys' clothes.
Well, then they're doing something. They're doing.
Sure. Yes, you're right. They're buying them boys' clothes
and telling them you're a boy now.
Okay, no, they're not telling them. They're just agreeing with. They're like going.
Well, they're
okay,
agreeing
honey.
with an 8-year-old.
Bill Maher went face to face with this woke celebrity, and what followed felt like a complete takedown. It quickly became clear that David Cross hadn't watched much of Maher's show, because if he had done his research, he might have reconsidered stepping onto that stage with those familiar, recycled talking points. Maher broke down each of Cross's arguments with sharp precision, like someone who had heard them countless times before. So what exactly did Cross say that sparked Maher's well-known fire? Let's dive in and find out.
Anyway, you knew you weren't gay, right?
It's
not different.
It is different.
No, it isn't.
It's okay. Good luck with President Vance, because as I always say to my woke friends, we voted for the same person. You're just why she lost. And this is a case of that.
Wait, what?
We voted for the same person.
Right.
You're just why she lost. Because America hears this and they're going to go, Bill's right. 8-year-olds can't really make decisions on their own like this.
And Maher argues he's hitting the point exactly here. In his view, it's this kind of woke overreach on divisive, anti-science issues that helped drive Kamala Harris toward a crushing election loss she didn't fully anticipate. And interestingly, those same issues could open a clear path to the White House for J.D. Vance if he ultimately secures the Republican nomination for the 2028 presidential race. Many Americans were once comfortable, even supportive of the Democratic Party's broader direction, until something seemed to shift dramatically. According to this perspective, the party handed over control to the far left, allowing fringe voices to steer the agenda and promote positions that felt disconnected from everyday common sense and often clashed with established science. Voters noticed. Frustration grew. And when the time came, they made their voices heard decisively at the ballot box. And this, in this view, reflects where Democrats stand now, with figures like David Cross, living in Brooklyn, and Mandami Loving. And this is why music.
Where the Democrats are, with David Cross living in Brooklyn, with Mandami Loving, and this is why we're going to vote for J.D. Vance, and that's
I don't think
that's American in a nutshell.
I don't.
Doesn't mean I don't love you.
Politics, combined with Mandani's push toward socialism, is framed as a volatile mix that could set the stage for another major electoral collapse in 2028. Many Americans had already grown frustrated with being lectured on debates around biological sex and fairness in women's sports. According to this view, they rejected that narrative outright, and that refusal to acknowledge reality contributed heavily to the Democrats' loss. A rational, self-aware political party, the argument goes, would have recognized that mistake, stepped back from those unpopular positions, and quickly redirected toward more widely accepted ideas. But instead, they held on to those stances, like a sinking ship refusing to release its anchor. And now, rather than adjusting course, they appear to be moving closer to socialism, an ideology critics often describe as one of the most politically damaging in modern American history.
A Democratic congressman, I've had him on the show, I like him a lot, Seth Moulton from Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
He got a lot of attention at the end of the last election cycle because he was talking about the Democrats and they got their ass kicked in the election and so forth. And he said, they were talking about the trans issue. And he said, look, I don't want my 12-year-old daughter to be on the soccer field and be run over by someone who's identifying as a man, as a woman, but is really a boy. I don't want my daughter being run over. And a lot of people applauded him for that. I mean, we saw in the Olympics born a man, now fighting as a woman, boxer, just beat the dog shit out of a woman. the other boxer.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were disturbed by that. It's very disturbing to watch because it's a man beating the shit out of a woman.
So, at this exact point in the interview, a careful pivot to safer territory would have made sense, because it was obvious Maher was gradually settling into his element. And that's a risky place for any guest to be. As mentioned earlier, David Cross clearly doesn't follow Maher's show, and that misstep was about to cost him. If Cross had done even basic preparation, he likely wouldn't have walked in pushing one of the most divisive issues in politics today: eligibility rules in women's professional sports. That topic is like waving a red flag in front of someone deeply informed and politically sharp. Maher was visibly getting ready, almost like he was gearing up mentally, sharpening his arguments before carefully breaking down and tearing apart each of Cross's points.
You love to speak truth to power, and we always should, but you have completely lost the ability to speak truth to bullshit. The Democratic polling firm Blueprint told Democrats months ago that black voters, aka their supposedly liberal base, were more likely to find the president too liberal than too conservative. They also found that voters didn't just want Harris to distance herself from Biden, they wanted her to distance herself from what they believe the entire Democratic Party has become: a Portlandia sketch.
According to Maher, the Democratic Party's defeat can largely be traced back to one simple but crucial miscalculation. Voters were looking for distance, and they never got it. Many Americans had grown tired of the direction and policies under Biden and were hoping Kamala Harris would present herself as something different, a reset rather than a continuation. There was a clear desire for change, a sense that it was time to move in a new direction. But in Maher's view, Harris didn't rise to that moment. Instead of defining her own identity, she came across as an extension of the current administration. Rather than signaling independence or offering a fresh vision, she appeared committed to continuing the same agenda. That perception came at a cost. Voters who were already dissatisfied saw no reason to stay the course. In the end, the message from the electorate was direct and unmistakable. If it feels like more of the same, don't expect a different outcome.
What a shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race and sex see their election loss as a result of racism and sexism. Yes, if only we weren't so irredeemably unenlightened, we would have elected a black president by now. Oh, what, we did? Oh, right, and then re-elected him. Maybe you missed it because it wasn't on TikTok.
Many voters are becoming increasingly worn out with what they see as the Democratic Party's heavy dependence on identity politics. In earlier years, this approach worked powerfully, helping build strong coalitions by directly addressing marginalized communities and historically disadvantaged groups. It created a meaningful sense of representation and visibility that resonated deeply at the time. But today, the environment feels different. For a growing number of people, that same strategy now feels repetitive, even overly calculated. Instead of bringing voters together around shared economic or national priorities, it can come across as emphasizing division, grouping people by race, background, or identity rather than focusing on common goals. There's also a growing perception that these methods are being used more as political tools than genuine efforts to uplift communities. As a result, some voters feel disillusioned, questioning whether the messaging is driven by real solutions or simply electoral strategy. The overall mood has shifted, and what once energized support has now, for many, become a source of skepticism and fatigue.
Get this straight. It's not me who's changed. It's the left, who is now made up of a small contingent who've gone mental and a large contingent who refuse to call them out for it. But I will. That's why I'm a hero at Fox these days. Which shows just how much liberals have their head up their ass, because if they really thought about it, they would have made me a hero on their media. But
Maher has clearly struck a nerve, and it's not hard to understand why many conservatives are beginning to view him more positively. From their perspective, he's finally voicing what they've been saying for years, that something within the Democratic Party has gone off course. His criticism doesn't come across like standard partisan attacks. Instead, it feels like frustration from someone who still sees himself within the broader liberal tradition. At the same time, Maher draws an important distinction. In his view, it's not the entire Democratic Party that's lost direction, but rather a loud minority promoting ideas and rhetoric that feel disconnected from everyday voters. The deeper issue, he argues, is that the rest of the party hasn't pushed back strongly enough. That silence, or unwillingness to challenge those extremes, creates the impression that those views represent everyone. And in the end, it's that perception that causes lasting damage to the party's image and internal unity.
You have to inject yourselves into everything, from where you can throw a frisbee to who can braid hair. This is why so many people, by the way, were triggered by COVID policies. They were already sick of rules. Regulation should be a good issue for Democrats. It's certainly one they're associated with. And I think the average voter would agree that banks and chemical plants and drug companies need watching. Telling a company, you can't dump the waste from your hog farm straight into the water supply. We're mostly all for that. But Democrats have become a parody of themselves, just making rules to make rules because it makes you feel like you're a better
Issue often raised, and one that helps explain why some voters are drifting away, is the perception that the left relies too heavily on rules and regulations. Critics argue this approach can feel overbearing, as if there's a constant effort to monitor not just actions, but even opinions. What may start as an attempt to promote fairness or accountability can, for some, come across as intrusive or excessive. This is where Maher's critique connects with a broader audience. He suggests the problem isn't just policy, but a tendency to inject ideology into nearly every part of daily life, including culture, language, and personal expression. For voters who value independence, that can feel draining rather than empowering. Over time, this perception builds frustration. Instead of feeling represented, some begin to feel controlled. And when politics starts to feel like a system of constant restrictions rather than a pathway to opportunity, it's no surprise many begin looking elsewhere.
The great irony, flag burning is free speech, and free speech is one of the key things that makes America great. So now that I have you on my side on that issue, don't be a hypocrite and defend attacks on speech from the left, because you either get the concept or you don't. And sadly, a lot of people don't anymore. Yes, mostly the young who were never taught it by their derelict educational system.
Maher has also focused on what he views as a concerning shift around free speech. Historically, the left presented itself as a strong defender of open expression, protecting dissent, challenging authority, and encouraging debate. But in Maher's view, that tradition has weakened in recent years. He argues there is now a growing tendency to shut down viewpoints that don't align with dominant opinions, especially in online spaces. Say something controversial or even slightly out of step, and the backlash can be fast and intense, particularly on platforms like Twitter. Critics describe this as a kind of digital pile-on, where disagreement quickly turns into public shaming rather than meaningful discussion. The result, according to Maher, is an environment where people feel hesitant to speak openly. Instead of encouraging dialogue, it creates pressure to conform. And when diverse perspectives are discouraged, it undermines the very principle of open exchange that once defined the left's intellectual identity.
And people who believe in social justice have agreed this is wrong and this is bad, and exposing kids to an adult world of lurid costumes and garish makeup borders on abuse. Now hurry up and get in the car. We're late for Drag Queen Story Hour. Not that there's anything wrong with being a drag queen, but maybe it's time to admit that sometimes Drag Queen Story Hour is more for the queen than the kids. Sure, kids love a clown, but does the clown have to have tits?
Taken together, these critiques form a broader picture of a party grappling with its identity and direction. From failing to distance itself from unpopular leadership, to an over-reliance on identity politics, to a reluctance to challenge more extreme voices within its own ranks, the concerns all point to a growing disconnect between the Democratic Party and a significant portion of voters. What once energized support now, for many, feels repetitive, disconnected, or overly rigid. Maher's arguments resonate because they don't come from a typical opponent, but from someone speaking as an insider who sees the cracks beginning to show. His warning suggests the issue isn't just external opposition, but an internal hesitation to adapt and self-correct. At its core, voters appear to be asking for balance. Practical policies over ideological posturing, unity over division, and open dialogue over enforced conformity. If those concerns continue to be ignored, the party risks losing even more ground. But if it listens and adjusts course, there may still be a path to reconnect with a broader electorate. And on that note, we close today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.